not seen is
Well,
like my specialty.
That's true.
Yeah, now you're going to be seen. In fact, I think you're being seen now.
Yeah.
This camera is looking right at you right now.
Now that's your fault. I mean, you have done this to yourselves. You realize.
All right.
There's no reason anybody should see me.
Having you here in the first place was Ben's idea.
Ben's idea.
I just
Right.
want to be
exactly.
clear.
Exactly. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. People are watching you, though. You might want to say something.
Are we doing it now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
I'm glad we brought the professional
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Welcome to Gateway Open Office Hours. I am Seth Adler, the host of Cannabis Economy, here at Gateway headquarters in Jack London Square in Oakland, California, the disputed capital of cannabis.
Disputed?
Of course.
Oh, wow.
Everything's
It's
disputed.
cannabis. Everything's disputed.
Yes.
Exactly. With me today is, of course, me, Carter, and Ben. Carter, Ben, welcome to your own show.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate it. I don't know. So everyone knows each week we talk about early stage issues that affect early stage founders. So you can join us every week at 10 a.m. live on Facebook. There's probably some kind of follow button somewhere. You can also go to oh.gtwy.co and I don't know, ask us questions.
Send them in. We
Yeah,
may
you can
or may not answer them.
Right, you can tweet to us at GTWY Inc. Use the hashtag GatewayOH. Again, if one of us happens to be looking at Twitter, we will get those questions and answer them. Typically, how it works is we get the questions after the show, kick ourselves, and then answer them the following week or on Facebook. So you can
Which
try
begs
that.
the question, why do we do this live?
Fun.
Yeah.
And
Because we can.
the production value is so much better by doing it live, I think.
Of course.
We've shown that. So, and plus there's more swearing involved for the half an hour before the show because it's live,
That's true.
right?
You should do a pre-show show.
I'm just.
It would just be like
I'm
constant.
gonna do it
with
without
Carter
him
swearing.
knowing.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like Facebook Live him like setting things up. It'll be like.
Because that's potentially viral material. Let's be honest.
Yeah. No, it's just a litany of swearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually we start off by talking about the news, and I said to you earlier this morning, I don't know, was there really any news we want to talk about?
Yeah.
And you said, I have
Yes,
news.
I have news.
You said it in your nice radio voice.
Yeah, sure.
So
I have news. Yeah.
what news should we
Well,
talk about?
what do we want to do first? I guess let's do local news first.
Local news.
Right?
Okay.
Unfortunately, 2 members of the local band Tower of Power were hit right down the block by a train crossing the road to Yoshi's. This happened yesterday. They are okay.
Wait, how do you get hit by a train and be okay, first of all?
I don't know. I guess it was
moving.
slow. Yeah.
Because the station's right here.
Yeah.
I guess okay.
So the Amtrak station is like right there, right?
Yeah.
But then the question is,
Yeah.
how do you get hit by a slow moving train?
Carefully? I don't know the answer to that. But they're
okay.
were just crossing the road. Well, there's no like gates or anything.
Yeah,
so-
but there's a large train with a light. And,
Yeah, and a
and as
horn.
you can hear,
Yeah.
the horn.
Yeah, I was going to say,
is
the
often
train is
there.
not silent.
It is not silent. And they probably hear well. They're musicians, but supposedly they're okay.
I'm not sure musicians hear well because
sorry?
yeah.
Yeah.
All the
Supposedly
ones
they're-
I know have tinnitus, basically, because they've been in clubs for so much.
Yeah.
They can't
Well, that's the Pete Townsend is like completely deaf in one ear.
Yeah.
Right, from the Who. But supposedly they're okay. But if you want to support them, you could do so by listening to What Is Hip.
Okay.
Probably their best known song.
Do they need some weed?
We can send them
Probably.
some
Yeah.
medical marijuana.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's good. So they're in a hospital nearby.
That's horrible. Thank
So
you
that's
for
local
bringing
news.
us down to start.
Well, what I'm saying is they're okay.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
the summary is
it's a
okay.
happy ending, if you will.
That's a different district of Oakland.
I gotcha. So that's local news.
Wow.
And we're moving on, you see.
Yes.
So next would be, of course, Senate hearings for Trump's cabinet. I guess news for this program would probably be Sessions.
Mr. Sessions.
I heard a few things which I found interesting. But what I'm noticing, because it's been a couple days, is that politicians are really good at presenting material in a way that can be kind of deduced any which way, right?
You just now noticed that?
Well, I'm noticing it explicitly. So
Okay.
what I heard him say was, Congress passed a law that says that cannabis is illegal, and if they would if they want that changed, they should change it. He also said that he would use his best judgment, which I took to mean I'll do whatever I want.
Right.
But I've spoken to other people. I think you're one of those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who heard a completely different.
Well, I didn't hear anything good necessarily.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I just stepping back. What he said, you're right. The first thing he said, which we agree on, is, look, Congress passed a law.
Right.
I am not going to sit here and say that I'm not going to enforce a law.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you have to understand. Anyone interviewing for the job of Attorney General has to say that.
Right. That
The minute
should
he
be the
says,
line, right.
like, even if he's totally pro-cannabis, which obviously we know he's not, he's horrible,
right.
right? But even if he were totally pro-cannabis, he would have to say that.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
otherwise,
going to enforce the laws
right.
that it's my job to do.
Right, because otherwise every other member of that panel would look at him immediately and say, really, what other laws will you not enforce that you don't like? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it opens up Pandora's box.
Totally.
So he has to say, I'll enforce, I'm not going to say, he didn't even say I will enforce the law. He said, I'm not going to say I won't enforce the law. Which is like, oh, okay.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Good, don't say that because you're not retarded.
Right.
Right?
I like to use frittata, but fair enough.
Fine, yeah. I'm probably more insensitive than you. So, that, right?
Yeah.
And then he went on a little side note about resources. Like, well, it comes to resources and blah, blah, blah. And he basically kind of said it's not a priority. Mm-hmm. And then he said, Congress should make it legal if they want it legal.
Right.
And he did, I think he mentioned states' rights a little bit.
Ish. Yeah.
Ish.
Right.
Ish.
Yeah.
Right. So, it wasn't the best possible answer I would expect from
But it wasn't
AG,
the worst.
But it wasn't horrific. It
Right.
was like, okay, that's kind of what people have been saying, which is, to me, it was a signal that, hey guys, business as usual as far as cannabis goes. It's not a priority for me. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm going to do crazy other things, but not cannabis. So lay off on that.
And then now going back to what I hear and what you hear, I heard, there's probably 4 ways to go with it. Leave it as it is, which is what you mentioned.
Right.
Go after adult use, go after new states, or go after everything.
Right.
What he probably said was, I'm not going to try to just go after everything right away.
Right. Mm-hmm.
However, I might come after you. So
Yeah, well, we know he hates. We know he's not pro-cannabis.
I think
right?
he's definitely not going to just leave it as it is what I heard.
Really?
Yeah, I heard.
Well, then that's scarier than what I heard.
Exactly.
Right? So,
I feel like he's going to rattle the doors at least a little bit based on,
I don't
based
know.
on I'll use my best judgment.
The thing, again, it's hard to separate him from Trump.
Yeah.
Too. Like, he's supposed to be separate from Trump, but no one actually believes that the Attorney General is separate from the president completely. And even with past presidents, so Trump, I think, like him or hate him, everyone kind of agrees he's mostly just a populist, right? He's not like, he's trying to do what he thinks will be popular to some segment of the population. I don't think cannabis is his issue. He doesn't seem to be an issue for him. So
that's against cannabis is not a populist issue.
Right, and there are states like Florida that voted for Trump and for cannabis, right? And so I don't
71.
Yeah,
I don't think
exactly.
I think he's smart enough to recognize that he's not going to win any people over by going on an anti-cannabis crusade himself.
And so we shall see.
Right. But, it's all
We made it through that one.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was news. But that was like you can't really do anything with it. It turns into opinion, right?
Yeah.
There was other news, which was actual news.
yes.
And it turns out, guess what? You're never going to believe it. Cannabis is medicine.
No.
Yeah. And this time, the people that are saying it is the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine. So that's good.
So what
Excellent.
clout do they have?
So this is a body that was created by that left-wing nut job Abraham Lincoln.
Ah, that one.
I think
I remember.
in the 1860s.
Yeah, the Republican left-wing nut job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And they took into account 10,000 studies and came up with the fact that if you have pain, I don't even think they called it chronic pain. If you have pain, cannabis can help you with that.
Yeah.
If you have MS,
out too. That's
Well, they just figured
It
it
only
out.
took
That's the
10,000
industry we're
studies.
in.
Yeah, right.
They had 10,000 studies.
good
They
thing
had
we
to look
have.
at
Good thing
10,000
we have
studies.
those organizations. That's
Indeed. So that was one thing. MS was another thing. Helps solve spasticity.
Right.
You had the fact that it helps solve nausea for chemotherapy.
Yeah. Yep.
And and it does not cause lung cancer, which separates smokable cannabis from tobacco.
Yep.
So any state that has a non-smoking law, this doesn't apply, and now there's science behind it. So I don't.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm big on science. Some people aren't.
That
you know.
sounds like
Hey,
the
you know.
10,001st study that people might ignore.
Indeed.
Right.
Well, no. I think as far as my feed, right, because we all have our own separate news sources now, this was big news because I read it not only from Dave, but also from Forbes. So,
Nice.
You know.
Nice. Yeah.
so that there's the news.
So there's some good cannabis news.
I think so, yeah.
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 Well,
And I don't think Trump has denounced Forbes yet.
Well, they would have to say something about him.
right. Yeah. As long as the Washington Post doesn't publish it, I think.
Or CNN.
Yeah.
CNN would be the big one.
Megan-
right.
As long as Megyn Kelly doesn't go on a pro-cannabis tirade, we're good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I don't.
you know, sorry, go ahead. No,
Can I
no,
interrupt you?
Yeah.
I just want to remind people of why and who Seth Adler is.
Yeah, that was. It's a great segue.
Right?
Thank you. Yes.
Before we get further into discussion,
Why are we asking this
listening
crazy
to
man
this guy?
Yeah.
Besides having an amazing voice for radio,
Thank you.
and you
A
could
face
have
to match.
Yeah, you know.
Face.
You have spoken with over 200 entrepreneurs, influencers, politicians, you name it, of the cannabis industry
Yeah.
on your podcast, Can Economy.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Like, how long have you been doing this now?
So I started doing research in the space in 2013 because Colorado and Washington had voted in adult use in 2012, and I thought to myself, "Oh, there's something happening." Now, I now know that there had been something happening for quite a while before that.
Yeah.
But I started to call, any name I could find, and just find out what was going on. And so some of the initial interviews of the podcast were some of those initial calls.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
You were
And-
just wise enough to record it while doing it.
Well, no. The first calls weren't the episodes.
Hi, you don't know me, but I'm recording
Yeah,
this now,
exactly.
and I have
This
to
is
send it
being
to my
recorded.
cannabis.
No, but I heard immediately that there were huge issues for this industry centered around security and banking, which remain, and taxation. And so, I initially kind of started to pull people together into executive forums and have them talk to each other and do that every 6 months. But as we know, still, the news and the rules change on a weekly basis. And so I realized that pulling people together was good, but not fast enough. So I launched the podcast, started interviewing people, and 220 people later, here we are. We have amazing people in this industry.
Yeah.
Being able to talk to an entrepreneur who is interested in risking his or her own financial well-being, as well as his or her own, freedom,
Right.
to potentially go to jail. I mean, that's an entrepreneur that I want to get to know. That's an entrepreneur I want to talk to. That's someone that's got, I think it's cojones.
Yep. I think that's
Right?
the technical term.
So I know that you guys do have worked with startups. I can't help but ask a question. I wonder, what is the makeup of the folks that have come through here? What is that extra little difference that you've noticed? Like, because you've got to be kind of a little nuts to get into this industry, right?
I mean, it's been said that you kind of have to be a little nuts to be an entrepreneur in the first place.
There you go.
So, I don't know. I think in California in particular, like many things, there's a bubble, and cannabis has been normalized to the extent where I think, frankly, and this isn't always good, some people just forget that, oh yeah, what I'm doing is federally illegal.
There you go.
Right?
Exactly.
And sometimes our job is to kind of remind them and make sure that there's legal mechanisms in place so that they don't end up in jail and they're doing everything the right way.
But they inevitably get reminded.
They do,
and that's what weeds out the ones that are truly passionate about working in cannabis and making sure that it goes mainstream, and the ones that don't. You know, and we've seen people fall off. You know? Not necessarily in the program.
Well, actually, no, we have. I mean,
program.
we've seen people. We've seen a founder team get shaken up in our program, and basically a couple founders replaced by other founders. And at the time, it was traumatic for us because we were like, "Oh crap, you don't want a founder shake-up." But the founders that left were specifically focused on, "Oh shit, I'm risking going to jail, and maybe this isn't really the way to make money, and not what I want to do." But they were replaced by a founder who was very passionate about the medical use of CBD and THC as well, for her mother and like people in her life and for herself. And she had seen the effects, and she was very passionate about the cause. And I think ultimately that makes a better founder. We talk about the why all the time being super important. So I think one thing you maybe get in cannabis is founders with a better why generally, because you have to have a pretty good why to put up with the risk. Whereas if you're just, doing an app for some fucking thing, you don't necessarily, there's not really risk, so your why doesn't have to be very strong.
It's also the reason that so many women are so successful in cannabis because of the Y chromosome.
The Y chromosome.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't even know what that. The women is 2 X's, right?
It's not the Y chromosome,
right? I just.
We're the one with the Y. I didn't take biology.
He didn't get an A in biology. It's okay.
And now we have a series of biological questions to ask you. So, all right, let's get back to you.
Yeah.
You've interviewed a couple hundred people, like Ben said.
Yeah.
Even you must have absorbed some information by osmosis.
Absolutely.
From some of those people. What would you say? If you had to list for founders, we like to focus on founders here, right? If you had to talk to founders about the do's and don'ts of communicating your business externally, I'm sure you've heard lots of people try and fail or succeed communicating their business. Pointers and any thoughts?
So as far as before we get to communication, I think it's like the mindset and the makeup of the person. We kind of talked about, risking being jailed. So you know that those are table stakes. Know that when you're coming in here. At least right now, it's federally illegal. And as we talked about before, it doesn't look like that's going to change, yet.
Neither one of us had the opinion that was going to change.
Immediately.
Right,
exactly. So that's what's, that's what table stakes are. Also what table stakes are now is that you do actually have to play by the rules. So, out of the shadows and into the light is a Steve D'Angelo quote, which means, let's stop hiding and let's kind of come out here and show folks that we are good players, for patients, for the community, et cetera, et cetera. So you're in a place where folks are looking at you in a different way. So that's fantastic that you started your, carpool app. But this is a different thing than that.
Right.
There's more culture involved than just a solution. It's more than just a solution.
Yep.
So that's what I would share with that.
And you're sharing that because you think it's something that founders should either be aware of or also communicate, or what?
I think it depends on the audience as far as communication. So that they should be aware of that. They should also be aware of the fact that the culture and the community, of cannabis is deep. So if you have seed to sale technology and you're not calling it seed to sale technology, you're going to sound like a fool. Now, I'm sure that's just general, knowledge for any industry.
Sure.
But specifically in this one, folks are looking at new people and with like, do you belong here? And if you don't, they think that you don't, and that's not great. I think
Yep.
that's stronger in this industry and community than it is in other ones. So I've done work in a number of different industries, retail and finance and chemical supply chain, and there's always a community, but it's not necessarily a band of brothers and sisters. And I think that's what's here. So when you get to communication, you're talking to industry, when you're talking to the community, to the movement, prove your worth to the movement. If you're in this industry as an entrepreneur, you are also an activist. If you're not an activist, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You have to know that because it's federally illegal. So you have to be behind legalizing cannabis. And that's a thing that...
Which seems obvious.
Yeah. But that's a thing that's been going on for 40 years. Know the history. So that's that, and communicate that to us.
Yep.
When you're talking to investors, they should know that also. They should know that this is a bigger thing than just widgets and dollars and hockey stick growth.
Right.
Because this, I'm sure with any entrepreneur, you can tell me better than I can. With any startup, it's going to cost more. It's going to take longer. Right? In any industry.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like
absolutely
10x here, because the regulations that are established in the pharmaceutical industry are re-established on a weekly basis in cannabis. So whatever you had you're going to have to change it, because they're going to change the rules on you consistently.
Right. And unlike something like the pharmaceutical industry, you don't have a county by county problem, for example, to deal with, right? It's not, at least it's not balkanized. But right.
Yeah.
But it is in cannabis.
And so as far as communication is concerned, I know that, when's the exit is a huge question for startups and for investors, and we need to know. I think it behooves both startups and investors to know that this could be the exit, but really just to speak honestly and openly about, where the industry has come from, where we are now, which is in a much better place than we ever have been,
right.
Where we're going, which looks like a much better place than we ever have been. But I'll bring us back to our first conversation. There's still, doubt.
Yeah.
Well, we've tried to impart that on the industry ever since we entered. Is just like, stop asking about the exit. Like, we are all startups, like, in this growing economy, and like we just need to be building the best damn companies we can.
That's it.
And the exits will come once the industry is mature enough. Now there's going to be midterm exits and acquisitions and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. There are some investors, I guess, that would like to see a 3x return in 2 years, but
that's not the community. That's not the model that we're used to, right? Yeah. But even in outside of cannabis, I think early stage investors don't generally ask what your exit is, and if they do, it's generally a sign that they're not
serious,
as experienced.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Although I've heard some experienced people ask that, and maybe this is my own bias, but the really good investors that I know aren't sitting down with a founder at the very, very early stage saying, like, you didn't talk about your exit opportunity. It's like, that's because that's so far away. Like, I'm talking about building a business, and everyone kind of recognizes in the tech world that a big, valuable business will have an exit opportunity. Like, whether, if the IPO markets are soft, Google will buy you, or there's something, right? And I'm not saying it's not an issue at all for outside of the industry, but it tends to be an issue that come in when at the institutional stages and a little bit later, right? It's that the Series B money that's saying, okay, how are we going to get an exit out of this, right? Like, and beyond, right? Maybe some Series A, but certainly not before that very often.
Well, as far as you guys working with these guys, Series B, that's are we even there yet?
No.
It would be my question to you.
No, we're
right?
not. We're not.
Yeah.
So that's the my view of the tech industry, as tainted as that might be. And then But in cannabis, I think there is an extra concern from investors around exits that isn't in tech. And that is, well, in tech, we can kind of trust that if you build something successful, Google will buy you or something. In cannabis, Google's not going to touch you until you're federally legal. They're not going to buy you.
Right.
So exits become an issue for investors, and entrepreneurs need to be aware of that and have at least some mechanisms, or at least be open to discussion for how value is going to be extracted while you're sitting around in purgatory with a successful company waiting for an exit.
Yeah.
Or have some other plan there. So it's something that we take into account when we invest.
Totally.
But you've turned this around, and now we're answering questions.
Yeah, it's
You're
going to
supposed
keep
be
happening. It's
answering
like,
questions.
it's muscle memory. Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
So to sum up for you, communication.
Yes.
For
and I
founders.
think it's being open and really making sure that everybody on the team, on the founding team, and the investor set in your relationships knows what the deal is. You know, because anybody that is new coming in, you gotta bone up your knowledge. This is a highly regulated industry.
You're saying to be very transparent about what the risks are.
Absolutely.
Right. And not try and pretend like there aren't risks and court an investor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An investor that isn't familiar with the space. The investors that I've spoken to that are in the space and familiar with the space know that.
Of course.
Right. But if you're talking to an investor who's getting in because 8 out of 9 states just voted in, a whole bunch of cannabis.
And there are a lot of those.
Everybody's got to be educated here.
Yep.
Or else, you're just throwing away your time and their money.
Sure.
Which doesn't
No
sound
one
good.
wants to do that.
Yeah, this is too bad. 2 wrongs don't make a right, Carter.
So, no, but 3 do.
There you go.
Pretty sure. So what's your, what would your general advice to be for cannabis founders? Where are the places you see cannabis founders fail the most? Where have they fucked up the most in at least what you've seen?
I think, no knowledge base. I think no knowledge base of just the community, the movement, the what's going on and what is needed. A great understanding of generally where we are, and the products. There are a lot of a similar type of product that are out there, and that's okay sometimes. But I mean, the numbers that are out there now we've got growth that surpasses the .com bubble, which, by the way, operative word there being bubble.
Yeah.
So that's great, and so there's obviously a tremendous amount of opportunity. I'm trying not to mention a category here, but if you see,
No, but we can. We're all thinking of probably one in particular.
Sure. What's yours?
Oh, we weren't thinking of one in particular? I feel like there's a lot of. I actually don't know if I should say this because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
I'm
not going to say my category that I'm.
But if it's
I'll be
that,
diplomatic and not.
And
say
I'm
it.
sure that people that are watching are thinking, that too. And so if you're at home or at work and you're thinking, hey, I want to get into the cannabis industry, just do a Google search. And if there's immediately 25 of something, no matter the value proposition that you have, do
strongly reconsider.
Yeah, do a different one first.
Right.
There's
a lot of Me Too, right?
Yeah.
I love the fact that you started with the knowledge. I mean, this is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
And to me, I always just say own your domain, right? You need to be the domain master.
Totally.
Have you heard of LMGTFY?
No, but I support it.
You should.
You would, actually.
And you're going to start using it on people.
What is it?
So it's a very snarky way of responding to someone. And if they ask you a stupid question, you can go find it on Google using this tool. It's called Let Me Google That For You.
Oh, wow.
And it will.
That's hilarious.
You send them the link, and it takes them to this page where it shows a cursor. Click, and it'll type it out. Click, and then it'll show them the web page that you get the answer from.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's life-changing. And then if you send it to someone, it's kind of the same synonymous with game over.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Let me Google that for you. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, sorry, Dad. I know you've been the victim of that a couple times.
If you can't use it on your own family, where can you use it?
Exactly.
Another one would be kind of coupling the two, branding. So, number one is we need to respect this plant. It is medicine. It is not marijuana. There are racial connotations to that word.
Mm-hmm.
It's not weed, and it's certainly not dope. And so if you're going down that road, I understand that there is a community of people that you can serve. My advice would be better than that.
So when you say it's not marijuana, it's not weed, it's
Yeah.
certainly not dope.
It's cannabis.
Yeah, I just want to clarify.
Yeah.
Are you alluding to the large mass market of average consumers that are coming into this space not wanting to hear those
I'm
words?
talking to founders. I'm talking to founders. I'm talking to founders. I'm talking to us.
Legitimizing the plant
Exactly.
and elevating.
Right.
That's
I'm
it.
trying to clarify
That's it.
why. Right, but I think a lot of founders would push back because we totally agree, by
Yeah.
the way. But I think a lot of founders would push back with like, what's legitimate about saying weed, right?
Okay.
And the only answer that I really have to that is empirical evidence, which is, well, all these people that aren't already in the community that are coming in,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound legitimate to them.
Exactly.
Even if it is in some weird abstract sense legitimate,
Yeah.
which is kind of arbitrary.
Right.
It's not legitimate to the newcomers to the industry who are kind of viewing it as a medicine, right?
Exactly.
And saying, oh, I have
And
a
an
medical
industry.
issue, right?
Yeah.
And it's so so you're advising founders to kind of steer clear of all that language and
Well, just don't go lowest common denominator. That's personal advice. I mean, there's a lot of people that have made a lot of money on the lowest common denominator.
Sure.
So
Absolutely, yeah.
That would be more of a personal opinion. The other thing, though, more seriously, is with branding. I have seen a lot of takes on logos.
Mm-hmm.
So, repurposing the very well-known fast food chain into a cannabis product,
right.
which is...
Well, people are getting in trouble. Speaking about news, like Girl Scout cookies, came down hard, which I have been saying for years, like, how are they letting this, happen? Like, everyone loves the strain. It's great, but, the Girl Scouts are,
That's a thing.
They're not going to love the strain.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not their image.
I mean, that's a
And
strain.
it's confusingly similar,
Yeah.
or exactly the same.
Right.
That's a strain, so it's kind of difficult to know where that's owned. But if your brand in any way is like a take, the name is a take on something else, stop.
Right.
You're doing it wrong.
So you're bringing up I think you're kind of skirting around something that at least we, as a pet peeve of ours, two things.
Yeah.
One is puns,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
Everyone has a cannabis pun.
Yeah.
Ours as the exception.
Yeah, hey. This allows us to criticize because we're,
Self-deprecating.
yeah. And two is leaves in the logo, right? Like every logo is like,
green.
here's a marijuana leaf that's green and it's part of some logo and it's canna something, can economy, something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, cannabis economy, sure. But, can economy on social.
I'm kidding.
No,
I'm
yeah.
kidding, but there's a lot of can something, canna something, da da da, leaf logo. It's very predictable, or a lot of puns, right?
That's it.
And that all plays into the negative stereotype that marginalizes the industry.
Yeah. It just makes it lesser than.
Right. It's hard to compete with real CPG products when that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, would Kraft put out a logo on a sub brand that was making light of someone that would never happen?
No.
Procter & Gamble would never do that.
Right.
And they, for your audience, know how to make money. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can complain about large companies having a lot of problems, but they do know how to make money.
They know how to make money.
And they know what consumers respond to. And there's a reason why they don't do that. That's not just that they have a stick up their butt. It's
Right.
that they've done a lot of research and spent millions of dollars knowing how to market to people.
Well, you have to have a discernible brand, and when your brand looks like everything else, and I mean, we've had a ton of applications where it's like that canna company, I mean,
Well, we made Trellis rename. They were CanSoft. And we
made a lot of people rename.
Yeah, we
Trellis
make
is
it,
great. Trellis is much better.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
right, but we forced a lot of
Thank
people
you.
to rename,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it was exactly that. What's that can of something company
Can
that
of
we?
something.
It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah,
It has the leaf. No, with the straight edges, not the curvy ones.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's not the full leaf. It's just one. Yeah, no, no.
It's 3 prongs. It's
Right.
angular and
It's the
it looks
stylized
3D.
leaf.
Right.
yeah.
Kind of doesn't look like a leaf, but you know it's a leaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's founders. What about what about investors? I mean, what do you think? You've already said investors kind of need to be aware
Sure.
of the landscape.
Yeah.
What are some other things that they should either be aware of or maybe be interested in that you think are areas that are interesting in terms of new startup growth?
Sure. Everyone knows that if you don't touch the plant, it's much easier. But that's where everyone's going. So what about touching the plant? Because there's a lot of great work that has been done, that is being done, as far as producers, as far as processors, as far as retailers, people that are, have the plant in hand all day long. There's a tremendous amount of money to still be made with that group of folks, and with new companies that are getting in to those areas. Don't ignore that.
Yep.
That's the big money. Why do you think that licenses are millions of dollars? So, as far as where I see investors going, and specifically new investors away from the plant, I would.
But you
turn
would recommend
around.
to them,
Go
hey,
to the plant.
look at the plant. There's opportunity and fewer people vying for the investment opportunities.
Absolutely.
And then we would insert, just make sure it's structured properly and that's the right investment vehicles and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Right. But you can structure. I mean, we invest in companies that touch the plant.
Why wouldn't you?
Right. Well, I mean, that was our premise.
Differentiator,
Our
right?
premise originally was basically agnosticism, and we thought, okay, if we just go for where we think the opportunities are, let's just be agnostic and see what happens if we just go for the high growth opportunities. And what happened was a decent percentage turned out to be touching the plant.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
so that's what we're doing.
And to that end, I'll take this tangent. This is an industry of startups. So there are companies, some of them here and north of here, who have been in this industry for 30 years, for multiple generations,
Yep.
operating with the same name. However, they have new rules, speaking to those people, the cultivators in the Emerald Triangle. They have new rules that are happening right now.
Yeah.
So they're a startup. They're a 30-year-old startup.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and they're going through a transition. They
Yeah.
want to be able to find out, like, we've lasted 30 years. How do we last another 30 years? And it's
Exactly.
going to look very different.
Yeah.
The
But they've
companies-
got an advantage, right? They've got some massive advantages that if it's theirs to lose,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
It-
But speaking to the investor, there's folks, there's a giant community who's making money who needs investment.
Right.
Yeah.
In Colorado, that is a market that is getting smaller in terms of the numbers of players because the price point is through the floor.
Yep.
That's only going to last so long.
You
but
think?
Yeah.
You think the margins will come back up on cannabis?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Why?
It's a
Because-
single couple players, you have price control. Yeah.
So that's going to be happening over
So you
this
think
next couple
you think
of years.
just collusion will bring the margins back up?
Well, I don't like to use the C word.
I know you don't, but
No, I don't think it would be collusion. I think that it's just the way that business happens.
see, I don't know. I have a different perspective on that.
Share,
I mean,
please.
I think for certain parts of the industry,
Yeah.
there's differentiation between strains and quality, but I think there will be some minimum threshold that it will become a commodity just like any other agricultural commodity, and a lot of the buyers won't care where it's coming from. That's not completely true for everything, right? You've got really special strains coming. Emerald Triangle you mentioned, right? There's some very proud strain owners there doing some really cool things that people really love, but in general, I think it's going to become a commodity.
Yeah, when you're talking about the growth of the industry and
Yeah.
where the largest growth potential is, I mean the craft market will always exist. It's just not going to grow as fast or as large as the gross economy. It just kind of
Yeah, and which is why I'm really curious that you think the margins will
Because
come back up.
you're talking about flour specifically.
Well, no, I'm talking about. So if you look at the growth of the market, right? You've got edibles, fastest growing segment for the newcomers,
Sure.
right? They don't care a whole lot about the source in general. The mass market consumed products don't care a lot about the source. They just want, give me some THC to put in my, or CBD or whatever they're doing. Like, give me some THC to put in my edible. I'm going to try and mask the flavor anyway, so the terpene profile is really not that important to me.
Right.
So give me it cheaply.
Right.
And I don't care about all of the other things. And I know that is offensive to some people.
Sure.
And understandably, just like Budweiser is offensive to some people.
Well, I was just going to say Budweiser. Right. I think what it more is you've got Budweiser, you've got Sam Adams, you've got Fat Tire, and whatever beer we had the other night, whose name I'll never remember.
Right.
I think that's...
Oh, are you talking about the denogonizer from
the
Drake's?
denogonizer. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. Hashtag denogonizer.
Yeah.
But... well, that's what my point of view is. I think that if you have fewer players, the prices will come back up, supply and demand, and those folks also need money.
Interesting.
So if I'm talking to an investor, go to the plant. Everyone needs money.
Right. Fair enough. Good point. All right, so I think we're gonna
This is my part.
I think we're gonna end. Yeah, we're gonna end the way that you end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ben, would you like to?
Well,
lead
yeah.
the
I mean,
ending? Yes.
I am an avid listener
Thank you.
to your show.
Thanks for listening.
I told him we only listened to episodes that we sponsored.
Which is fine by me.
Right. Well, yes. I do like hearing him talk about us. You read art, what do you call them? Advertising very well.
Oh, thank you.
I think so.
Yeah.
But what I would say is I listened to your show a bunch, and then I was on your show.
Yes.
And had completely missed me that I was going to have to answer these 3 questions, and I'm like, I'm so. I forgot the word that you used, but it is
Surprised?
frittated.
Oh, frittata, yeah.
Yeah.
You feel frittated, right, yeah.
Yeah, I was very frittated.
Anyway.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
we're going to ask you now.
Yeah.
So 3 questions.
Yes.
I will lay them out,
Yeah.
and then you can answer them one by one. I'll
appreciate
remind
that.
you.
Yeah.
So 3 questions.
Yeah.
The first one being, what has surprised you most in life?
Uh-huh.
The second one, what has surprised you most in cannabis?
Uh-huh.
And the third one being, on the soundtrack of Seth Adler's life.
Yeah.
What is the one song
Yeah.
that needs to be on the
Okay.
soundtrack?
Well, I very much appreciate these
So
questions.
number 1.
Yeah.
They're brilliant questions.
Yeah.
What has surprised you most in life?
In life. So we're going with life first.
Life.
I think this is. I've never answered these questions.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, that's fun.
You've heard it here
yeah,
first.
Yeah, exactly. I've answered the song question 2 or 3 times. But
Have you thought about these questions?
I figured that this might happen, so I thought about them
I see.
last night. And I will say that what's most surprised me in life is what it is. It's crazy. It's a journey. There's twists and turns. There's peaks and valleys. There's you don't know what to expect next. You're completely kind of surprised every day, and then also it's not surprising, and sometimes it's a little boring. And if you were to ask me to kind of describe what life would be when I was maybe 17, I'd say, well, it's going to be awesome. And in many ways it has been, but definitely not the way that I thought it would be.
Well, you're not on stage playing to millions of people.
Well, tens.
Yeah, at least 10 people, right?
Tens of people.
Tons of people. He's not a rock star, is my point.
Not at all. And then just finally on life, my mom used to say, kind of I live by the words that she said, which are determination is key, compassion is vital, and a smile gets you through. So when in doubt, smile.
Well,
You do a lot of smiling. I think it works for you.
I'd say, Mom, he is living up to your standards.
There you go.
He's doing a good job. All right.
Yeah.
Cannabis.
So I go directly to the endocannabinoid system.
Mm-hmm.
I go directly to the fact that in my body, in my nervous system, and in my brain, receptors that cannabis can cling to and help.
Yeah.
My body's built for cannabis. Cannabis is built for my body. That's ridiculous. It's crazy.
You are producing cannabinoids within your body.
It's remarkable that if I have pain, as we discussed earlier, if I can't sleep, if I have issues with my diet, that there are solutions in cannabis. It's crazy. Even when I started to just do research, I explained how I started to do research in the space, and it's, okay, this is a new fun industry. I remember cannabis from college.
Right.
This should be good. And then, wait a second, it's like a superfood and also medicine, and you can make concrete out of it if you want to bring in hemp. Like, what are we talking? This is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So that's what's most surprised me.
Yet still a Schedule 1 drug, which is also surprising.
Yet
in a
has
bad
no
way.
value. according
Zero
to the DEA.
medical
Yes.
application.
Which is strange because they, of course, have a patent for the medicinal use of cannabis. So there's, But
No one ever expects them to
make any sense?
not be hypocrites.
Yeah.
That's very hypocritical, sure.
It's confounding.
Well, the last one.
Yeah.
And you are a music head.
I am.
Like, before
So this answer better be damn good.
yeah,
has to be.
before we answer the question,
Yeah.
like, where's this love of music come from? Like,
Oh.
how deep does it drive? Like, you seem to have this crazy knowledge base of music.
Yeah, and it's from a fan perspective. I never was a musician, so the rock star
You're not a rock
thing
star,
was
yeah.
not. Yeah, I didn't have that dream.
Oh, you didn't even have the dream.
No, I had like more the dream of being like, I'll be able to go to any show I want.
I see.
Yeah.
I'll have all the records.
Yeah,
of everyone.
exactly.
I'm the dream roadie.
Exactly. I don't know really the answer of how it got in, but it did. So it kind of started with the classic rock stuff, the Easy, Led Zeppelin, the Who, obviously the Beatles and all that, and those guys kept talking about these other guys being the great blues musicians from that kind of came before them. And so now you got basically what were mostly English guys talking about what mostly were American guys. And so I dove in on blues. And I guess I'm a researcher at heart. And so I found something that I liked in music and then started researching it. And so it's totally a passion just because of the way that I'm built. So I took blues and then went, in all different directions. So that's kind of why I have a wider knowledge base.
All right. Well, I know what to put on the Pandora next time you're in the office.
Sure. Oh, well, these blues will do it. But as far as a specific song for today, so I thought to myself, where are we? So we're in the Bay Area. In the grand scheme of things, we're close to the Fillmore. And so Aretha Franklin has an unbelievable album called Live at the Fillmore. Her backing band on that album is King Curtis. And I've been doing a lot of cooking lately. And King Curtis is a saxophone player. Doesn't really sing a lot. Mostly the lyrics come from his saxophone. But he's got a song or his group has a song called Memphis Soul Stew. And basically what he does is he makes you a meal of music. And so he adds drums and he adds horns. And by the way, as far as advice, the way to make something better is just add horns.
Yeah.
If you're wondering. So try that on. Memphis Soul Stew.
We should
Curtis.
try that on the
I
podcast.
feel like
Yeah.
I just got like a minor in music history. This is fantastic.
Should we find a YouTube a video of that song and stick it in the comments below? So there's a link to the
we
song.
could do that,
Yeah.
right?
Certainly.
You don't have to play it. You can just link it.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't want to get in trouble with
That's what I'm
licensing.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just link to it.
Yeah.
So go listen, and YouTube can deal with that.
They can, do what they want
Yeah.
with that. That's exactly
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything
Great.
else? Those were the three. You have any other
Those
pressing Seth questions?
Those are the three. I'm so excited that you're here. I have gotten to know you over the past year, and I think this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. More on that to come.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
Seth.
for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
All right. I'm
Thanks,
sorry that
everyone.
it's video, but otherwise I have.
Hey, no,
blast.
we love your voice. I'm jealous anyway of your voice, envious. Of your voice.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So
I'm jealous of your shirt.
Listen to him.
everyone's jealous of my my Wyatt Oil shirt.
That's
no
pretty
one will
good.
get the reference, but
Interesting. Okay.
so
Cannabis Economy
Yes.
podcast. If you aren't listening to podcasts,
at Can Economy is the Twitter.
at
and-
Can Economy is
yeah.
the Twitter and Instagrams.
Yeah.
If you're not listening to podcasts as an entrepreneur, you're doing it wrong. It's just a great way to catch up on your knowledge while you're getting other stuff done. It keep you up to date on how to be a good entrepreneur, how to stay up to date on the cannabis industry itself. Definitely listen to him. And like I said, he's got a golden voice.
Yes.
Why? Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Have a good week, everyone.
Well, next
Is
week,
that-
join us next week.
Oh, next week.
We
Do
will
have
talk
it?
about sales strategy and tactics next week.
Ooh, that's good.
And it's an area that a lot of founders forget about, especially the engineer kind of focused on building the product,
Right.
and they will come
We
people.
should get Zeev on.
So,
Follow up.
We'll do that.
That'd be use it next week.
Follow up.
Follow
yeah, there's
up.
one thing. Actually, talk to people.
Yeah.
Step one. So join us for that next week. We broadcast, just as a reminder, we broadcast live every week from Gateway Works co-working space at 10 a.m. on Friday. You can go to oh.gtwy.co to watch us do our thing, or you can follow Gateway Incubator on Facebook, and you'll get notifications whenever we broadcast. If you want to come work at Gateway Works, I think the discount code is GatewayOH.
Simple
Creative.
enough.
You get $150 off on your first month. We're here in Jack London Square, and it's the coolest building / ugliest building you will ever
I don't
see.
think it's ugly.
It is. You don't have to be a startup to work at Gateway Works, but you do have to be involved in cannabis in somehow. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again to Seth.
Thank you, Seth.
And see you all next
right.
week.
Peace.